There will be some tricky carving today as I work to dry fit the suspension components, both front and rear, into the BRM P261 shell. But in order to do that, I've got to open up some areas on the shell and then start to work with mini Dremel and X-Acto knife. I don't want to slip as I'm wielding the mini Dremel, so I've taped the border for the front opening there, slightly inside of where the carving line should be, and I'll finish it up with sanding stick and X-Acto knife. So I've got that tape to guide me, and then see how that front suspension unit with the lower and upper A-arms, if I can get that into a nice, at least dry fit. The rear suspension is going to be trickier because I've got to do the attachment points are a little bit complex. The right in here is where the top of the shock absorber spring unit will attach, and the top of the anti-roll bar right up here at the forward part comes through pretty much right behind or near the top there behind the cylinder heads, and then of course it moves back. The axle opening is that little line there on each side, which will be hopefully a pretty easy thing to cut, and then I'll use a mini drill to start burrowing in here and then finishing it out. But the first step is the cutting disc on the front, and then get that shaped, and then I'll get to work seeing if I can get this rear assembly dry fitted. Of course, the radius rods have attachment points here and here on each side. I may have to shorten these styrene plastic rods a little bit. This whole component section came off a Scalextric Lotus 25. It's very similar to the BRM suspension system, and I think it'll pass muster. By the way, the front system did too, and then I had to make adjustments for the wheels. So into the carving station, some running water, get the respirator on, and start zipping around with the mini Dremel cutting disc. Wish me luck. Okay, I went to work with the Dremel, sanding stick, X-Acto knives, opened up the front wheel wells, the area behind the engine for the rear suspension, the slot for the rear axle. The good news, best news, is I didn't break anything or shatter the shell. And the second piece of good news, it looks like the kit-bashed front suspension system is going to work pretty easily. I have to put in a few connecting points on the lower portion of the body shell for the lower A-arms, but that's going to be, should be a good fit and look okay. Second piece of good news is I think that in the rear, the radius rods, the lower A-arms, the spring shock unit will work. Have to play around with it a bit. However, this anti-roll bar and linkage that connected those pieces together before, that just doesn't fit. I can get it slotted through, but the angles are all wrong. Just a slight little difference in terms of how it fit on a Scalextric Lotus 25. So while it appeared similar, I think I'm going to have to handcraft a piece or several pieces, possibly chop up the anti-roll bar and see if I can fit it, just the ends, and leave the center connecting part out to get the angles right. I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do about rear axles, but that'll come in due course. I also need to fashion uprights for the rear that'll attach first, of course, to the lower A-arms and then some sort of upper link. I'll do that out of plastic card, and I don't envision that will be too much of an issue. But it's a lot of crafting and trial and error now. Very happy about the front. It's going to take a while to figure out and ensure that I've got a assembly that will work, hold up the rear of the car, and look authentic or representative. But onwards and upwards.